Well, let's now turn to trading at the Ethiopian Stock Exchange. Of course, we know trading launched on Friday, and the bourse was established as a public-private partnership, and it's all part of an initiative to accelerate economic growth through transparent and secure capital market operations. Officially launched in January, the stock exchange's rapid progress has defied expectations, some may say. By June, it had executed its first interbroker stock trade and listed Wegagen Bank and Gada Bank. Both of them were valued at $45.5 million and $9.02 million respectively. Now, its interbank trading platform has also facilitated over $1.1 billion in transactions. And despite the strong performance, the government's ambition still remains pretty strong. It plans to list 50 companies within 5 years and 90 within a decade. This includes Ethiopia's crown jewel, such as Ethio Telecom, which began its IPO process in mid-2025. We saw it offering a 10% stake to investors this year. Well, let's discuss the progress the exchange has made so far with Zemedeneh Negatu. He's a co-founder and CEO at CBE Capital Investment Bank. He's also the chairman at Fairfax Africa Fund. Great to have you on the show with us today, sir. Now, of course, I want to start off with the fact that there was a lot of buzz when the Ethiopian Stock Exchange launched in January. We saw it begin trading on Friday. Since then, it has attracted just 2 equity listings, some government securities, and of course that IPO with Ethio Tel. So give us some more insight into what was the delay and of course what this signals about interest in the country's market or the 2 lenders that we saw listed.
Right. First of all, as always, thank you for having me back on your program. As you indicated in your introduction, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, a lot of initiatives that are going on in the Ethiopian capital markets. And obviously, we're one of the key players as one of the first investment banks in Ethiopia, CBE Capital. There is actually quite a bit that has happened since the launch, official launch of ESX in January. The interbank money market has actually been booming very significantly. As you indicated, 2 companies are now officially listed, 2 banks. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a ceremony which included all 3 companies to be listed, including Ethio Telecom. As you indicated in your introduction, that Ethio Telecom has already done its IPO, but it's now going to come to the market. So these are a lot of very good indications. In addition to that, last Friday, there was a big launch ceremony. The treasury bills are now going to be traded on ESX. And in fact, we did our first, CBE Capital did the first interbroker treasury bill trading last Friday, and we did our first equity trading about 3 weeks ago. So there's a lot of movement. Obviously, it's a startup stock exchange. It will get gradually to the point that you described, where there will be 50 to be listed in 5 years and up to 90 in the next 10 years. To put that in perspective, you look at the exchanges in Africa, whether it's in Nairobi or Lagos and other places, those kinds of large number of IPOs are very rare. And part of the reason is there's a lot of pent-up demand in Ethiopia from the private sector, which has been growing. And also, they're going to be state-owned enterprises to be privatized. So when people ask me, can you really list 90 companies in an African stock exchange? I said, yes. The dynamics in Ethiopia is different than, say, other markets in Africa because we're just getting started. So we're very excited. There's a lot going on. And I think you will see a lot of momentum, especially in the next coming periods. There will be also foreign portfolio investment that's also been allowed, so that's going to start coming in. But initially, it's going to be driven by the domestic market and companies, private family-owned companies coming to the market, and as I say, state-owned enterprises. And also the really exciting one, which we found very, very pleasantly surprised and happy to have, is the treasury bills, because it now actually allows the masses, millions of Ethiopians, to participate in buying treasury bills, which are now yielding 15, 16, in some cases up to 17%, compared to, for example, 7% in savings accounts. So it's also one way of building confidence in the nascent capital markets for people to buy guaranteed securities, treasury bills, which are yielding very high. So a lot of very exciting things are happening in the marketplace.
Well, what would you say to sort of the critics and analysts that say we haven't seen as many listings in Ethiopia because the country still doesn't have the necessary infrastructure and also the stakeholders. And by that I mean licensed brokers and investment banks, enough of them to support trading on the exchange and trading in Ethiopia right now.
So, well, I mean, obviously we're a key player, as I said, but there's another investment bank. There are two of us at the moment, but I can tell you there are at least 3 or 4 in the pipeline. So within the next 12 months, you probably will see maybe 5, 6, even 7 investment banks and brokerage firms in Ethiopia. In addition to full-fledged investment banks like us and the other one, there's at least 1, probably 2 more brokerage firms, purely broker firms already licensed. So the service providers actually, in my view, are going to be quite a lot. The ecosystem is going to expand very significantly in the next 12 to 18 months. And then you question about the infrastructure. And obviously, we were part of the process of building up the infrastructure that will enable a fully electronic trading platform. And one of the advantages of being a latecomer is we don't have legacies to protect like other exchanges in Africa who went from a paper to an electronic one. Here, the ESX is starting fully on electronic. And our system, if you come to the CBE Capital trading floors in Ethiopia today, it's fully electronic, AI-enabled systems that we're using. So the infrastructure is there. The telecom infrastructure is obviously very robust. We're using it. We don't really have any downtime. We haven't had any downtime in operations. So I don't think the infrastructure is an issue. The service provider says the ecosystem is expanding. Obviously, we love to have much more players in the marketplace because we need counterparties to trade, and it is coming along. So again, if you and I were to talk a year from now, you'll be expecting at least you'll be seeing at least 5, 6, maybe even 7 investment banks. The interesting thing though is here all the investment banks are partly owned by the banks, commercial banks, which is the way to go because it needs a lot of capital, needs access to a lot of infrastructure. So for us, for example, we are a PPP. CBE Capital is a PPP. It's a public-private partnership. 70% of CBE Capital is owned by the largest bank in Ethiopia, the state-owned commercial bank of Ethiopia, and 30% is owned by a private firm, which I'm involved in. So these are the others also, the private banks are also setting up similarly. So that means I'm not so sure there'll be a standalone model here in Ethiopia for investment banks. But again, this is probably the right approach for a nascent market that needs confidence building, that needs capital. But eventually you might see standalone independent investment banks and might even be more and more brokerage firms. For now, though, this is the dynamics in play.
Right. And as you mentioned, there's been a lot of anticipation, especially from our end, from state-owned companies. And last year, we know the government said it had identified about 10 state-owned enterprises that will be listed when the market is launched. So far, only Ethio Tel has had an IPO. It's also yet to start trading. What's the expectation there? Is it clear what the holdup is? What is happening with the state-owned enterprises?
Yes, again, as you indicated, the government has plans to sell through the stock market a number of state-owned enterprises. I know some of them are under preparation. The timing, I think, will be made aware very soon. But I mean, Ethio Telecom was the largest, and it's in the final phases of coming to the market. As you know, as you indicated earlier, Ethio Telecom has already done its IPO. Now it's a secondary that has to come to the market, and we are actually, our team and the other firm are prepared to trade Ethio Telecoms, which I think will create a lot of buzz, a lot of liquidity in the market. But there will be some big state-owned enterprises, which I understand are in preparation. The timing will be announced by the state sometime soon, but definitely out of the 90 that you mentioned over the next 10 years, some of them are state-owned enterprises. But to be very frank with you, there's quite a lot of actually family-owned, privately owned companies, and even in my view, some of the multinationals that are operating in Ethiopia, which actually do list their shares, whether in Nairobi or in Lagos in South Africa, some of them are already operating here, and I would expect a few of them to start listing their shares, especially the ones in the FMCG, the fast-moving consumer goods sector, which is a logical approach when they sell to the masses, to sell that stock also to the masses as well. So I would say a very significant portion of the IPOs will be coming from private companies, but there will be a number of state-owned enterprises in the future who will be listed on the exchange.
And Mr. Negatu, before we let you go, we know the ESX, it's part of a push by this government to attract foreign capital into Ethiopia's economy. So far, We've seen it grant about 2 licenses in the telecom space. It also said foreign banks can now apply for licenses to operate in the country. What is your take and your feeling on the progress that has been made so far to sort of open up Ethiopia's economy?
Uche, that's a very good question you asked. It's actually an indication that a lot of the economic, by the way, the capital markets is part of a much bigger economic reform that's taking place in Ethiopia. What you just indicated, for example, the opening up of the telecom sector, the telecom sector in Ethiopia had been closed for more than 120 years until it was opened 3 years ago. And as you know, Safaricom is now a key player in the marketplace. The banking sector, as of a month ago, officially now foreign banks are now allowed to operate in Ethiopia. Again, a big opening. So that, again, shows the transformation, the reform that is taking place, and not just the capital markets, but overall in the economy. But even the retail sector, which was closed off for, forever, is now open. And I understand there are like 30 some companies, foreign companies, that have applied for licenses in the retail, including a number of them from Ethiopia's neighbor in Kenya. So you need to look at, in totality, the changes that are taking place in Ethiopia when we talk about capital markets. The final point I wanted to make is, until now, foreign investors had one window to enter Ethiopia, like most African countries, which was through the FDI window, foreign direct investment. Now, as we progress, there's going to foreign portfolio investment. It will be as allowed to happen to transact in ESX. Now, it'll be a little while before that happens because this is only the first few months. But in the next months, maybe years, you should see foreign portfolio coming into Ethiopia through the exchange trading or through firms like ours. That's also a very powerful window for bringing in foreign investors into Ethiopia who can get exposure to the market without having going through the FDI window. So again, big reforms, and we expect big positive results in the coming years and months.